Hello, friends, and welcome. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer. Today, I have a fun topic in mind, I hope. You can see I have two books in front of me. You may recognize From Tundra to Tiara because this is the book that I co wrote with my husband and business and writing partner, J.T. Hume. You can see a lot of his books back behind me at the Two More Books bookstore. So, my topic for today is co-writing. And as I mentioned, you are familiar with From Tundra to Tiara. At least you are if you have been around for a little bit. If you are new, let me give you a brief backstory. A few years ago, JT and I went to see The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum. Very cute movie. We also have long enjoyed the movie Romancing the Stone. And coming out of The Lost City, we felt that we could write a fun story, a little bit adventurous, romantic, of course, as a couple. We could co-write the book. So we sat down. I wrote the first chapter from the main character Lexi's point of view, and he wrote the second chapter from the main character Travis's point of view. And of course, there is a sled dog involved because they're in the Arctic tundra, they're in the tundra of Alaska, and there is some sled dog racing involved, but there is also a reluctant royal story going on there. So this is not an exact copy, I guess, of either The Lost City or Romancing the Stone. We took the general idea of the romance and adventure and we took it off in our own direction. And we had so much fun writing this book that we're planning to write another one this year. We have a vague idea in mind, and we're going to be fleshing out just a generic outline. We find it easier to write these books in such a way as it's like that we're talking back and forth to each other. So if that makes sense. So as I said, this book looks familiar if you have been around for a little bit. Now, this book is something that I have not yet talked about, and you will see that this book was written by someone named Nora Lee, and you may be wondering why I'm bringing up this book. Well, I actually wrote this book. I am part of Nora Lee. Nora Lee consists of three people, myself and two of my kids, Sarah and Rory. And we wrote this book more than a decade ago. Sarah actually made up the outline. I wrote the book, and then Rory helped Sarah edit the book, and they published it. So this book came out, I believe, around 2015. Now, I was working full-time at that point, and I don't have a clear memory of the process. Sarah did hire me because Sarah is a full-time author herself and has written quite a few books under the name S.M. Rain. She's written the Seasons of the Moon series and the Descent and Ascension series and various others. So I will put a link below the video to Sarah's website in case you're interested in urban fantasy. You may like to check out Sarah's books. So Nora Lee is an amalgamation of Sarah, Rory, and myself. And this was a very fun process too, because Sarah provided me with the outline, I wrote the book, and then they cleaned it up and published it. And I am now, let me see here. The reason I have my computer open is because I'm looking at Amazon, because the books are available paperback and ebook on Amazon. So let me look up, because there is a very distinct difference between these two books. Now, JT and I published From Tundra to Tiara in paperback, at least in 2023. And we have 9 reviews on this one. So it is a more recent book. Currently it is a 5-star. It's basically a 4.8 average rating on this book. And these are both, you might call them cozy. there is not a lot of high stakes danger or anything going on in them. So I think in that way they're fairly comparable. But now if I go over to Love the Witch, which is part of the 4-book Witches of Secret Hollow series, and I did not write all 4 books. The kids basically took over in book 2. I think I vaguely remember helping out with that one, but I believe Rory may have written one entire book on their own, and Sarah had a lot of involvement. Sarah probably did a lot of writing on these books as well, because that's what Sarah does, is write all the time. And she is re-releasing some of her other books. So like I said, I will link to her website. But in this case, this book was released around 2015, currently has 236 reviews on Amazon, and has an average review rating of 4.2. Now, the reviews on these, I'll just randomly pick a review and see what they have to say. My apologies, my computer's being a little slow. So the keywords for this are the keywords are psychic mysteries, cozy craft and hobby mysteries, and witch and wizard mysteries. This is a contemporary. There are no paranormal elements in it. It, as I mentioned, is adventure and reluctant royals. So in that way, these 2 books are very different. This one was a lot of fun to write, and one of the reasons I'm bringing it up now is that the 3rd book of my current paranormal series, Restless Spirits, is going to have a connection to this book series, but not in the way you might think. And I'll talk more about that as I'm releasing the 3rd book later this year. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this book because I haven't really thought much about it since working on it with my kids. And it is something that I had a lot of fun doing, and I thought it would be a fun idea to just talk about the co-writing experience. Obviously, our family has several writers, and JT's grandparents were also both writers. My side of the family, not so much, but our kids, our middle and youngest, are both involved in writing. So we do have a little bit of a family business going on here. And I don't know if our grandkids are going to head in that direction. They haven't quite. They say they know what they want to do as adults, but they're still at that point where that could be very flexible. So we'll see. But now of course, JT and I did a podcast yesterday talking about AI and the dreaded AI experience, and how Amazon in particular is using a lot of AI to not only to basically scrape books to give recommendations to readers. So I will, give you a warning right here that I am reading an AI compilation of what reviewers have said, the 236 reviews for the Love the Witch, Hate the Craft book. So my apologies if that triggers you. I am not specifically looking to use AI, and if you want to see our discussion about that from yesterday, I can also link to that podcast basically at the end. Maybe I might have to put a link down below in the comments, but I will link that podcast because we have gotten some pushback, but that's not what I'm discussing here. So just giving you a heads up. Anyway, the overall idea is that the book is easy to read with a fast pace and good characters, humorous with just the right amount of drama. One reader described it as a fun coming-of-age tale. The magic content is enjoyable, and one review mentioned lots of magic in a small town. There are some challenges, of course, because nobody ever thinks anything is perfect. So on the more negative side, even though the book does have an overall 4.2 rating for the 236 reviews, some people have found it the worst book they've ever read, which I actually take it as a compliment, honestly. I don't think it's as bad as they say, but that's also that's very subjective. Some people love things and some people will hate them. And customers disagree on the book's age range. So this is a distinctly adult romance. It's an adult contemporary. The characters are adult. It does not refer to children, aside from the fact that, you know, these are the adult children of someone, whereas these are younger characters. Some of the main characters, anyway, are younger. They're coming of age. And so some people maybe disagree on which age range that should be. But people obviously have still read it and somewhat enjoyed it. So you can take that for what it's worth. But I found it a really fun story to write. I'm actually going to have to reread it now because it has been a very long time, and I think that will probably make me cringe because, you know, going back and rereading your early writing can be troublesome. But this one, as I mentioned, I wrote it, but then the editing process went through my middle and youngest kids. So we worked on it very collaboratively. And there are 4 books in the series. If you're interested in checking them out, you can go over to Amazon. They are listed under Nora Lee. We also have a Facebook page that we haven't touched in forever. So I may go back and see about cleaning that up at some point. But there's so many other things going on in life right now. Like I said, JT and I are talking about writing another book in the Queens and Consort series, which we're looking forward to. We had so much fun writing the first one. I think in the grand scheme of things, we are not great literary artists. We write what we enjoy. And, you know, both JT and I, at least, our very formative years were a lot of bad 60s and 70s TV and movies. So some of our inspiration for our writing may come from that. So we can blame anybody who came before us if they, you know, because the story arcs and things in those sometimes were a little bit improbable. And I know, at least in my case, I'm not speaking for JT here, but I know that at least in my case, I think some of my writing does tend to follow some of that problematic early storytelling. So, you know, I am what I am. In the words of Popeye, I am what I am. But this also goes to show that I have been writing for quite a while, and hopefully my work is improving. JT is currently reading the second book of the Restless Spirit series, giving me feedback on that, and has made the comment that maybe it's not as much of a train wreck as some of my earlier works. I don't know if that's a recommendation or not, but I am improving. Whether or not it's a great improvement, time will tell, but I'm hoping at least these books are enjoyable. So I thought it would be fun today to talk a little bit more about the co-writing process. As I said, just to give a brief wrap up here, these 2 co-writing experiences were very different. JT and I wrote this back and forth, 1 chapter at a time, whereas I wrote this one based on an outline that was provided to me by my youngest. I believe my youngest and my middle may have worked out the outline together, and the 3 of us collaboratively worked on the book, because once I provided them the draft, they took it and cleaned it up and published it. So, and also I believe Sarah did the cover art for this as well. Sarah does like to do her own cover art. She is very, like me, she likes both literary and graphic arts. She has spent a lot more time practicing her drawing skills and her graphic design skills. So I am not as inclined to do book covers, though I have, and I have since taken the book down. I'm going to maybe re-release that because it was intended to be the first book of a series, and that will be another video at some point. But as for my graphic design skills, that cover was a little iffy, and for the moment, we are using mainly 99 Designs, which I believe is an offshoot of Vistaprint. And that way we do a competition where various artists can compete to design a book cover. And we've had some very good results with that. Specifically with JT's book, Zoe, we actually have 2 covers because the top 2 designs were so close we couldn't choose between them. So that book actually has something of a special edition cover. We tend to buy more copies of one cover over the other, but again, that could be a topic for another video. This one is more about the co-writing experience, and I mainly got off on the graphic design tangent because Sarah does a lot of her own graphic design. And again, I'll put a link to Sarah's page and you can check that out if you're interested. So I hope you found this an interesting discussion of the co-writing process. I know it was a very brief overview. I'm just comparing my two experiences. I'm not trying to tell anybody how to become a co-writer. I'm basically sharing what I do and what I'm familiar with in the hope that maybe it will help somebody, maybe inspire somebody. You don't have to, feel intimidated, You don't have to feel intimidated by the writing process. That's one of the things that I'm trying to show here. If you feel like writing and publishing, go for it. You don't have to be the best writer in the world. Some people may not think you're the best writer in the world, but that's okay. Just put something out there. Enjoy yourself. Have fun writing the stories. Have fun writing stories with other people if you feel like it. I'm very glad that our family enjoys writing. When my kids were small, we used to pass the time. I remember distinctly we were somewhere waiting for something, and I had a piece of paper and I started writing a sentence, and then I'd pass it to one of my kids and they'd write a sentence, and we just did that to pass the time. I think we probably threw out the piece of paper once we were done, but we were creating a story together. So it is a fun way to spend time with your family if that's something you enjoy. If you don't feel like writing fiction, you can sit down and write down family memories. It's a lot of fun during family events, maybe to sit down and reminisce. So while you're doing that, just take a few notes. And if nothing else, you can always publish a little book for your family. It's very easy to do. And that way you can pass it down to future generations to keep your family history alive. And that may be another topic for a future video, but that's today's discussion about the co-writing process for me. I know, as usual, it's a little bit of a tangent. I tend to talk around things. I'm going to attempt a linear video at some point, and that could be a very big challenge for me. But just to wrap this up for today, I want to talk about the things I'm doing. Obviously, I've recorded this video now, and I will be posting that. I will be taking down more of my Christmas decorations because it's almost the end of January and it is time. I am going to be sitting down later today with JT's manuscript for it's another book in the Finding Salvation universe. So I'll be spending some time on that. And I will say the last couple of videos I put out, specifically yesterday, I was not feeling great, but I wanted to maintain my consistency for posting every day. So basically what I did was I was frustrated because TikTok was not working for me properly yesterday. I know it was having problems for a lot of people. And I just did a quick rant about social media and how the various platforms keep changing hands, and trying to keep up with social media for anyone is frustrating. But if you are a small independent author like myself and JT, it can be especially frustrating because we are using social media in an attempt to increase our outreach to readers. And I can link to that video. I actually will put the link to that video at the end of this one. It's not a great video. Like I said, I was not feeling my best, but it may at least inspire some discussion or reinforce how frustrated you've been feeling about using your own social media. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this little discussion of co-writing from my point of view. And if you are interested, please go check out the Nora Lee books. There are 4 of them, The Secret of Witch's Hollow. I will be mentioning this again later this year as I'm coming out with Restless Spirits Book 3, and I will talk more about how these books will connect to that book. But in the meantime, Again, thank you for hanging out with me today. My apologies for the I don't know, some people might call it word vomit. It just, I am not scripting these videos in an attempt to get them out daily. I am doing them just, they're on the fly, they're unedited for the most part, and I do one take. So the quality is what it is because that's just what I want to put out there. My main goals, as I've mentioned previously, are to maintain consistency and to basically keep a record of what I'm doing throughout the course of this year. We are coming up on the end of January, so I'm thinking I may do a January wrap-up video just talking about how I felt about my first month posting daily videos. And I have watched some videos of people whose channels have taken off, and definitely that has not happened for me yet, if it ever does. But if that should happen at some point, I will probably do a video about that when it happens, and you can follow that process in real time, because I find it interesting watching other videos of people who are reminiscing about when their channel took off. So there is a lot coming up this year that I've already briefly mentioned, but I hope you will follow along. If you happen to have come across this video, thank you for joining me again, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care. I'm Cassidy Carson, and this is The Life of a Writer.